So, in today's episode, we are going to be chatting about one of the pain points that a lot of our couples experience during the wedding planning process. And this is completely surrounding decision making, which is funny because I love making decisions. Good, bad, and otherwise, I'm in. Let's do it.
If you crave luxury but need guidance, then stay tuned for magic. Welcome to Wedding Tips and Tales with T.S. Wed, the podcast where we unveil the secrets to crafting the perfect luxury wedding. Join us for expert advice and insider tips that will make your special day unforgettable. Let's make your wedding dreams come true together.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Wedding Tips and Tales. My name is Taryn.
I'm Dani.
And we are with TS Wed, a luxury wedding planning firm that services weddings worldwide. We are so excited to be with you today. We've got a fun and a little bit painful topic. But before we get into it, Dani, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking green tea. What are you drinking?
Green tea's bad.
What?
It's gross. It's bad.
That's incorrect. It's also really good for your metabolism.
I believe it's good for you. That's
Yeah.
why Asians always look, 20 until they're 87.
Is that why?
There are probably multiple factors, but I'm sure that contributes. Yeah. You don't care what I'm drinking. Rude.
No, I'm so sorry. What are you drinking?
I am also drinking tea. Mine is like a vanilla black tea and it's decaf and it's fantastic.
Oh, I just totally off subject here, but I just found a protein-based chai, like in a bottle that's like
Yes.
many grams of protein. It's very delicious.
I should give you a warning about that. You're apparently not supposed to drink like pre-bottled protein drinks because they're otherwise very bad for you.
Why?
I don't know. You'll have to look at the label and like Google the things.
Okay, well,
Yeah. Anyways,
Nice.
cheers, everyone. Grab your
Cheers.
drink. Let's get
let's
started.
get into it.
But we know that it can be very challenging and very overwhelming as you begin the planning process to make these really big decisions that feel like very huge and important decisions as you are navigating through, big emotions, big financial investments, big family matters, and all the things. And so we wanted to address, well, first and foremost, like acknowledge and affirm that it is and can be very challenging to make these decisions, but then also address kind of the main decisions that the main decision making issues that arise and how you might be able to mitigate the pain associated with that.
Yeah, and I think all of that to say too that when you go into any decision, whether it's for weddings or buying a house or a car or whatever, at the end of the day, there's a couple of factors that should be first and foremost, right? First and foremost, of course, you want to consider budget when making decisions. That's going to be a big one for many, many people. And so you need to be aware of that. Also, the reality is like, is this you? Is this who you are specifically for weddings as a couple? Is this the story you're telling? Is this who your family and friends are? You want to be really cognizant of making sure that those two are the things that are guiding your decision making. But what does that look like, Taryn?
Well, here is what I will say. I think that a lot of people really struggle. A lot of our couples sometimes struggle with the beginning of the decision-making process because they feel that they don't have sufficient information in order to make that decision. And the fact of the matter is that the world of weddings, the wedding industry as a whole is enormous. And so whether it's trying to make a decision about which photographer you want to choose or a decision about who gives your speeches and toasts, like there are so many options and available avenues to choose from that it can feel just so overwhelming. And if you don't have the appropriate information on all the different aspects of all the different things, it can feel very scary.
Yeah.
And so I think a really good example of this, a couple that has done this really well that we're actually working with right now. And I think they'll be okay with me using their real names. We're working with Casey and PM, and they're absolutely fantastic. And we were looking at different places in the world where we could host their wedding. Now, that alone can feel really overwhelming because the world is a big place and there's so many beautiful locations you can choose from. And so as we were beginning our planning process and beginning our venue selection, we kind of narrowed down, okay, what states are you looking at? And then what are your priorities? Like you were saying, Dani, and we narrowed it down to 3 different states. And then we picked different venues within the scope of their priorities within those states. Now, obviously, there are probably more than 3 venues in each of those states that would have accommodated them, but we did the best that we could within a reasonable period of time to provide
Well,
them with three
well,
each.
and at the end of the day, like there's, and I know you love this saying so much of mine, Taryn, but
Oh,
there's
I
different
hate
ways to skin
this.
a cat.
Why? No.
It's a real saying. I didn't make it up.
Just because
Anyway,
it's real doesn't mean it has
like
to be said.
I just, the point is, like, there's different ways to do this. And so you can keep searching forever, right? It's the same with like wedding dress shopping. You can keep wedding dress shopping forever. Truly, there's a million options. You can go all over the world, you can go to different places. But at the end of the day, like, that's not necessarily the benefit of searching forever. It does not outweigh that work and that cost and that stress and that effort versus like finding one's, finding a dress that you love doesn't
Mhm.
mean there's not other dresses that you could have loved,
Right.
but you also don't need to continue that search if you find one that you love. So the same with this. Like when we were looking for these venues, we found venues that were perfect for this
Right.
couple. No need to search more. Obviously, we did our due diligence, we put in the effort, but then once you find things that hit all the buttons and they click, why are we making it more difficult than it has to be by then maybe
Right.
trying to search for another rose somewhere out there when you already have one in hand, right?
Right. And so once we did find the three different options in the three different states, that's when we threw information at them. So that's when we said, like, okay, great. Like, here's the estimated cost per room night. Here's the site rental fee. Here's the food and beverage minimum. Like, that's when we doled out the more specific information for each of the venues. And it made their decision-making process so much easier. And I think that, again, part of what was very overwhelming at the beginning is I don't have all of that detailed information for every single possible venue in the world that would be great
Right.
for me.
Yeah.
And that's just not realistic. So, and I know we always go back to this, but if you have a trusted planner who's helping to guide you through these decisions, they'll help you tailor down a list, whether it's of venues or photographers, floral designers, people who could give your speeches, people who could be in your group and family photos. Like, we will help you tailor that list down. And then when we get it tailored down, then we will provide you with the appropriate information so that you can then make the decision accordingly. I can
Absolutely.
only imagine for people that don't have a planner, like that paralysis of insufficient information would make decision making impossible for me. Like,
Right. And yet also getting all of that information is so much work and
right,
effort and takes up so much time. And sometimes that can be a barrier to even doing it because then you're like, oh my gosh, this is too much work. I also think what's really important too about the venues is that you want to be comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges. So that can be sometimes a little bit difficult when it comes to venues specifically, because a hotel property their costs are going to be very different than a private estate or mom and dad's backyard, right? And so that's where you're comparing apples to oranges a bit because the inclusions are not the same, the costs are not the same, the level of service is not the same. So it is important, I would say, going into this too, to make a decision about like, what are we trying to compare here?
right,
Like, there's sometimes there's these like bigger overarching decisions that you need to make first prior to diving in that you might not think of, right? So really think like, are we interested in a hotel property or are we interested in a private venue? And you need to make that decision prior to then picking out the specific hotels and the specific private venues, because again, that's apples to oranges and that makes the decision a bit more complicated. And if you're already having paralysis with making a decision, that doesn't help anything.
yeah. And I think that too, just kind of leading into that, like, it can, I think a lot of couples can feel overwhelmed by the sheer quantity of decisions that are to be made during the planning process because there are really a lot of decisions to be made. And so, what do you think of that, Danny? Like, do we have a tale to tell where somebody was so overwhelmed with the number of decisions to be made that they were just totally in decision-making fatigue and couldn't do it?
Well, I think it's less that there was too many. It's more that we're going in the wrong order,
Sure.
right? So we've had clients in the past who, you know, they're asking a million questions about, the linen choices, right? What linen are we going to do? What napkins are we going to do? What linen are we going to do? And we're like, girl, we haven't even sent out your invitation, your save the dates yet.
Right.
Like that decision needs to come first before we ever talk about linen and napkins, right? And that's where something like that can sometimes a bride or a groom or whoever you're speaking to might get a little, right? It's a little bit of a fight and they might be a little uncomfortable because maybe they want to talk about linens and napkins. And so as the wedding planner, us saying, we're not going to have that conversation right now.
Hmm.
We need to have a different conversation. Sometimes when we've had this, right, like that can be a little bit of a hard love conversation with our couples where we say, hi, that is really important and we're absolutely going to get to it. But right now, we need to talk save the dates. Right now, we need to pick your venue first. Right now, right, there's a whole bunch of other things that need to come first that I think that's where anytime in the past we've ever had any sort of problem with that. I don't think we've ever had somebody who's just like, I can't do it anymore. Um, maybe
Oh,
outside of like
I'm sure
COVID.
that we have. Let me think.
I think like
Because certainly people have been like, you do it. Like, just do it.
oh yeah, but that
Right?
really comes at the start. The people who already are like you do it, they know from the beginning that they just
Yeah.
want to make a decision, right? I mean, I think there was definitely some of that, like maybe some of that was during COVID, where people like there was just so much to think about
Sure.
that there was some paralysis about like, do we keep waiting? Do we move it to next year? Do we do it in Hawaii still? Do we do
Sure.
it else, right? So we had some of that for sure, but that felt so hopefully once in a lifetime pandemic specific. So
Hopefully
yeah.
once in a lifetime pandemic specific. However, I did love some of the weddings that we were able to curate then that they were
Yeah.
like, just do it. Like we did Susan Brown's wedding in Nashville, Tennessee, and she just like had her whole wedding already planned and designed on Maui and then pivoted and just said, just if you could just put it together. And
Well,
it was
I
like,
mean, there's a
yes, we
thing
would
for you
love that.
too. And I would say again, like decision making, this is maybe a little off track in that it's like making the best of a situation, but the Von Sternberg and Wallace wedding, right? They were supposed
Mm,
to be a 2020 wedding. They couldn't have their great big wedding, and so they postponed. And so what they ended up doing was having a small, intimate elopement at home, and then their big, great wedding in Hawaii. And it was the best of both worlds, right? They got to, not many people get to both have, because there's pros and cons, right, to having a big wedding or a very tiny, intimate one. But they got to have both. They got to have something that was very intimate and just laid back and quiet and just about them and about their love. And then they had a great big party that was their love, but exploding everywhere, right? And so they got to have both. And so that's where sometimes too, that decision making is like, that's an easy decision. Have both. That's fine. Like, do it. Don't worry about like, well, we're supposed to X, Y, or Z, right? You're
right,
not supposed to have two weddings. You have one. You either have the intimate or you have the big party. In that case, they just went, we're just going to do both, right? So
right,
sometimes I think a lot of the decision making fatigue that some people might have or the stress they might have is about what they're supposed to do
right.
versus what they want to do.
Right. And so in that case, like for people that, for couples that are beginning the planning process, of course, if you have a capable planner, then that planner is going to have a system in place to keep you on track, to help you make the decisions in the order that they need to be made. And then that planner is also going to take a tremendous amount of the decision making off of your shoulders because we'll just decide it for you. Like you don't have to decide what the timeline looks like. We will craft that timeline for you, and obviously you
And
get
you can
approval rights.
and you can speak to it, yeah, but it's
Yeah.
we know, this is and that's hard. It's hard to say this to our couples, so it's fun that we can do this on a podcast. Like this is their fully one and only wedding. We have had how many weddings? 200, 300, 1,000. I mean,
1,000, 200, I did 300 my first 2 years. What are you
I
talking
know, I
about?
don't know. Numbers are hard. But this is not our first go around. And so we do know what time your ceremony should be. We do know the order
Mhm.
of how the speeches should go. And this is because we've done this a million we are the most seasoned wedding guests of all time, right?
Mhm.
We have been to so many. And so some of that decision making you can put off on a really good planner.
Right. And you maybe don't even have to. Like, if you have a really good planner, like, they're obviously a bit of a controller. And so they're going to say, like, no, this is how this is going to go. And that can be very calming if you trust and have a great relationship with your planner. That can feel so soothing to go, oh, thank God the expert that I hired has got this covered. And all I have to worry about is X, Y, and Z because the rest of the alphabet is in her hands.
Right.
And so I
Yeah.
think that that is fantastic. I also think that for people that are maybe not moving forward with like a full service planner, whether it's, they're doing their own wedding or a day of, or like they have a venue coordinator or something like that. a lot of people will find resources and like checklists online, and hopefully in the not too distant future, TS Web will have some resources available for you guys. And we will at a later date link that below. But for now, if you're looking online and you're like on Brides or on, the Knot or whatever it is, and you find a list, here's the thing. That list is probably going to be like 7 pages long because whoever curates that list really wants to make sure that they're not missing anything, because then that looks bad on them, right? It's like, oh my gosh, the Knot made this list and it didn't have when I needed to get the RSVPs back. They suck. And it's like, so they're going to have a really long list. So what I will say, and it's just piggybacking on what you were saying earlier, Dani, like that list can feel very overwhelming. And so this is about you. This is your day. So like you can tailor that list to your needs. Like if you decide you're not having this huge wedding with 45 minutes of group and family photos, but you're having an intimate elopement, you get to cross off the group and family photos from the list, and
Right,
so
totally.
there's a little bit of common sense that goes in with getting a list, having the like standard to-dos, and then saying, okay, what is actually applicable and important to our event and what's not.
Right.
And for people that are working with a planner too, you get to communicate that to your planner too. So if they say, okay, it's time to put the shot list together, and you're like, I'm not doing any group and family photos,
Right.
the planner needs to know that and then accommodate you and go,
Right.
great, that opens up our schedule and we don't have to call out groups of people. That's fantastic.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I think another part too, and not to harp on the like a planner side of it, but it is what we do. A part of having a planner too can help with some of the decision making that the difficulty in decision making that comes with balancing what you want and what perhaps a parent wants or a mother-in-law wants or an aunt who's paying for some of the wedding wants. Some of that you can, at least for us, we always say like blame us. Tell Angie, oh my gosh, I would have loved to do a unity candle celebration at the sweetheart table or in the middle of the dance floor, but my planner said we can't because, and we'll give you an excuse why, X, Y, and Z. Oh my God, isn't the planner the worst? Blame us. Like, that's great. We don't care. We want us to be your day. And so sometimes if you need to play that game a little bit and being able to make a decision that you're wanting to make without hurting somebody's feelings, like oftentimes you can use your planner to circumvent any hard conversations and still be able to have the wedding the way you're wanting it to be.
Exactly. And that just is, it's like a bonus for when you're in the decision-making process. You don't have to worry about like, oh gosh, even if I don't want this person sitting here, but they might be offended or mom might be offended. It's like those worries that would otherwise impact your decision don't have to. Like it can really, really just be about what matters most to you and your fiance. And that's what it should be, really, right? It's your wedding day. And so being able to take that like worry and stress off the table while you're making those decisions is tremendous for decision fatigue. It helps you so much.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that's all just right.
I love that. So if you guys are struggling, if any of you listeners are struggling with your decision making in the planning process, our number one recommendation is going to be retrieve sufficient information for your decision, but appropriately. Use smarts about it. You can't spend the entire year researching every single venue in the world that could meet your needs, right? And so tailor it down until you go, okay, great. Now I need to get into the nitty-gritty details. Now is the time that I have, 2 to 5 options at my fingertips to really figure it out.
Yeah.
And then the second, of course, if you're feeling overwhelmed by the numerous decisions that you have to make, if you don't have a planner, get a list. Go online, get a resource, go through it, tailor it to suit the specifics of your needs, and then follow the list. And if you have a planner, communicate with him or her about your priorities. Ask him or her what her process is and how she is going to help you with those decision-making markers. And then trust the person with whom you're building this relationship, trust the expert that you've hired, and let the decisions come naturally.
Well, and trust the order in which we are making these decisions. Some things need to come first for a reason. We'll let the other things go. We'll get to them later.
Yes, exactly. Awesome. Well, I hope that this was helpful to some of you who are listening. We're so grateful that you're here and we're excited to still be doing this. So tune in next time.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Cheers.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave your questions below for future podcast topics. Subscribe, like, and let us know your favorite tip from this video. Until next time, let's keep making wedding dreams come true together. Bye for now.